Vanessa Cole was the kind of woman who never let her guard down, not even for a second. At 37, she had built a life many would envy. A sleek one-bedroom condo on the quiet edge of the city, a high-paying remote tech job that let her work in pajamas, and a spotless living space that smelled like vanilla candles and fresh linen. Everything about Vanessa was intentional, thought out, controlled. She wasn't paranoid, just careful. There's a difference. She never opened the door for strangers, never shared personal details with delivery drivers, never lingered in conversations with neighbors. She didn't need to. Her rules had kept her safe. Until one night they didn't. It was a Tuesday. Cold. Quiet. The kind of night where even the wind sounded lonely. Vanessa had just wrapped up another brutal day filled with virtual meetings, deadlines, and technical breakdowns. She tossed her laptop aside, wrapped herself in a plush gray blanket, and opened her favorite food delivery app. The same routine every time. Order from the place she liked. Click leave at the door. No contact. No small talk. Just food, privacy, peace. She placed the order. Thai nut do. Extra spicy. Then she waited. 20 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Driver, hey. You order a lot. Huh? Must really like this place. Her brow furrowed. That wasn't normal. Delivery drivers didn't say stuff like that. They weren't supposed to. It was supposed to be transactional, efficient. She debated replying. Maybe he was just being friendly? But something about it didn't sit right. Still, she ignored it. Told herself she was overreacting. A few minutes passed. Buzz. Driver. Food's here. She stood up, blanket falling off her shoulders, and padded quietly to the front door. Just like always, she peeked through the peephole. He was standing there, holding the bag, not setting it down, just standing, staring, not at the door, but scanning the windows, glancing toward her building, his gaze drifting upward, searching. It looked like he was peering right at her. She shrank back instinctively. Then came the message. Driver, hey, I think something spilled. Didn't want to leave a mess. Can you just grab it? Her fingers twitched. No, she typed. It's fine. Just leave it. Thanks. No reply. Seconds passed. Then another message. Driver, small. I don't want to leave it on the ground. Just grab it for me real quick. Irritation boiled in her chest. She had been so clear. Why was he still out there? Then came the knock. Slow. Heavy. Not the hurried tap of a driver ready to leave. But something else. Something deliberate. Her chest tightened. Every part of her told her to walk away. Lock the door. Call the building's front desk. Hell, call 911. Something was wrong. But she didn't. Maybe it was hunger. Maybe it was annoyance. Or maybe it was that ever-familiar voice that whispers in too many women's heads. Don't be rude. Don't make it weird. She rolled her eyes, sighed, and cracked the door open, just 1 inch. And that was all he needed. He lunged. The moment the door cracked open, Vanessa felt it. A shift in the air. A violent current of wrongness. Before she could even process it, he slammed his full body weight against the door. The force knocked her backwards. Her heels skidded across the hardwood floor as the bag of food hit the ground with a dull thud. The door slammed shut behind him. And just like that, Vanessa Cole was no longer in her home. She was in his trap. She hit the floor hard. Pain exploded through her spine. She gasped, scrambling for her phone, but it was on the couch, just out of reach. Then, a cold hand wrapped around her ankle. She kicked. Once, twice, her heel crashing into his jaw. His head snapped sideways. For a second, hope surged through her, but he didn't let go. He grunted, tightened his grip, and dragged her across the floor like a rag doll. His strength was terrifying. His weight crushed her. He pinned her arms above her head, his knees straddling her legs. Stop fighting me, he whispered. Calm, almost gentle. Her heart hammered in her chest. Her lungs screamed for air. She bucked, twisted, fought, but nothing worked. He was too strong, too ready. You knew this was coming, he murmured, his lips close to her ear. She froze. What did he just say? I've been watching you, he continued. I know you live alone. You order food almost every night. You leave your curtains open just a little too long sometimes. A horrifying realization gripped her. This wasn't random. He knew her. He had studied her. Panic turned to terror. She screamed. Loud. Desperate. He clamped a hand over her mouth. Shoo, he hissed. No one's coming. No one even knows you're in trouble. She thrashed beneath him, fingernails clawing at his skin, anything to fight back. But it was useless. His hands were everywhere. Cruel. Violent. Ripping through fabric. Stealing control. And then darkness. Everything went black. When she stirred again, she wasn't sure how much time had passed. Minutes? Hours? Her body ached. Her skin felt wrong. Violated. Her throat was raw. Her muscles barely responded. She was alive, but just barely. Then pressure. Hands. Around her neck. She gasped. Weakly, instinctively. Her arms flailing against him as he squeezed. Tighter. Her vision blurred. Darkness crept in again. This is it. This is how I die. She thought about her mother. Her first day of college. That stupid Thai restaurant she ordered from too often. And then stillness. Nothing. Until a gasp. Her own. She jolted awake. Air. She coughed, body spasming. Her limbs trembled. Her ribs screamed in pain. But the weight pressing down on her was gone. He was gone. She didn't know how or why, but somehow he had left. She blinked against the blur. Her fingers crawled blindly across the floor, searching, until smooth glass. Her phone. She grabbed it with both trembling hands and dialed. 911. It rang. Once. Twice. 911. What's your emergency? Her voice cracked. Help, please. Her throat burned. Her lungs fought for breath. Ma'am, stay on the line. We're sending help. Can you tell me your location? She choked out her address, every syllable clawing its way up her throat before the world tilted again and the phone slipped from her hand. From that point on, Vanessa's nightmare was no longer private. It was a crime scene. The blood on the floor, the bruises blooming across her skin, the shattered expression on her face. And somewhere out there, he was still free. Detective Reggie Mills had seen monsters before. He'd spent 20 years staring into the eyes of killers, manipulators, men who walked into women's lives wearing masks of normalcy, until they didn't. But this one was different. Damian Ward, 32 years old, no criminal record, no obvious red flags. A gig worker bouncing from job to job. Fast food joints, warehouses, late-night stocking shifts. On paper, he was forgettable, unremarkable. But behind that paper trail, a predator with a plan. When Detective Mills arrived at the hospital, Vanessa Cole was still unconscious. Tubes ran from her nose, IVs in her arms, bruises across her throat like fingerprints carved into her skin. He stood quietly at her bedside. She was lucky to be alive, and that made Mills angry, because Damian hadn't just meant to hurt her. He had meant to end her. That same night, Mills and his partner, Detective Jason Cruz, pulled the delivery app data, found Damian's profile, fake name, disposable phone number, still active, but no activity since the attack. Damian had vanished. They tracked his last known address, a rundown extended stay motel off the highway. Flickering lights, peeling paint, a vending machine humming like a broken engine. The woman at the front desk didn't even look up when they showed their badges. Damian Ward, Mills said. What room? She blew a bubble with her gum, popped it, tapped at her keyboard. Checked out 2 days ago. Where'd he go? She shrugged. Didn't say. Paid in cash. Left early. Mills leaned on the counter, jaw tight. You got security cameras? She scoffed. You think cameras in this dump actually work? Of course not. Damian was smart. Calculated. He knew how to vanish. But Reggie Mills knew something else. Nobody disappears without leaving something behind. They canvassed old jobs. A manager at a fast food place said Damian gave people the creeps. Showed up on time. Did his shift. Never spoke. Quit without notice. Same thing at a moving company. 3 months in, then vanished. No friends. No family. No roots. But something else stood out. He never stayed long enough for anyone to really know him. He was a ghost. A ghost with a system. Mills pulled Damian's phone records. Nothing helpful at first, until one number showed up over and over. A burner phone, traced to a tower in the west side of town. A place full of abandoned buildings and people who didn't want to be found. They drove through the area, flashing Damien's photo. Most people looked away, but outside a liquor store, an old man squinted at the picture. Yeah, seen him. Few nights ago. Boarded up shop down near 45th. It wasn't much, but it was enough. That night, they approached a crumbling old auto shop, a forgotten building swallowed by weeds and shadows. The front door was open just a crack. Inside, it smelled like oil mold and something worse. Rot. They moved in slowly, flashlights sweeping the corners. Their boots crunched over broken glass and rat droppings. In the far corner, a pile of blankets. A backpack. Food wrappers. Someone had been living there. Fresh footprints, Cruz whispered, pointing. They followed the trail toward the back, past shattered toolboxes, bent metal shelves, toward a broken door hanging on rusted hinges. Mills pushed it open, and there he was, Damien Ward, standing in the dark like he had been waiting, head tilted, calm, amused. He didn't run at first. He smiled. That smile made Mills' blood boil. Damien Ward, he growled, raising his weapon. You're coming with us. Damien's eyes flickered. Then he bolted, through the back, down the alley. Fast, but not fast enough. Mills chased him down, tackled him in the dark. The two hit the pavement hard, Damien kicking, fighting, but Mills pinned him, forced his arms behind his back, cuffed him. You're done, he spat. Damien only laughed. And in that moment, Mills felt it. That chill, that sickening calm, like this man had expected to get caught. Vanessa Cole woke up to the sterile beeping of hospital monitors and the cold weight of reality pressing down on her chest. At first, she didn't remember where she was. The pain brought it back. Every ache, every bruise, every raw patch of skin told the story her mind tried so hard to silence. She turned her head. A detective sat at her bedside, tall, broad, tired eyes filled with quiet sympathy. Ms. Cole, he said gently. I am Detective Muse. I know this is hard, but we need to hear everything. Vanessa couldn't speak. Her throat, bruised from where Damien's hands had gripped it, felt like fire. But that wasn't what made it impossible. It was the shame, the unbearable humiliation of saying it out loud, repeating what he had done to her, putting it into words. She had been so careful, so smart, so in control, and now she was just another statistic. Eventually, with her voice cracking and breaking, she told them what happened. The messages, the knock, the moment the door gave way. She watched Mills' face tense as she spoke. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. And when she finished, he simply nodded and said, You did everything you could. But that didn't make it any easier. Because the next part, the evidence collection, it was a second violation. A nurse came in, kind eyes, steady hands. We need to perform a rape kit, she said softly. Swabs, photographs, questions that made Vanessa want to disappear. She lay there, exposed, covered only by a thin hospital gown and the weight of her own disgust. When it was over, she curled into herself and stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours. This was real. This happened. And the worst part? She had let him in. Back home, nothing felt familiar. Not her plush sofa. Not the soft throw blanket she once loved. Not the elegant marble coffee table or the warm lighting she had so carefully chosen. Everything looked the same, but felt different. Tainted. Dangerous. She checked her locks 3 times. Installed extra cameras. Kept a baseball bat next to her bed. But still, she didn't feel safe. Her body was healing. Slowly. But her mind? Her mind was trapped in a loop. The couch. That's where he pinned her down. The rug, that's where she landed when he shoved her. Her phone, still open to the app, still showing order delivered. Delivered, like she had invited this in her life. She sat on the couch one night, wrapped in a blanket like armor, staring into space as that thought kept circling. I'll let this happen. No, she corrected herself. He did this. He was the monster. But knowing that didn't make her feel strong. It made her feel alone. And for the first time in years, she wished someone had been there. A friend, a neighbor, a partner, anyone, because independence was supposed to mean power. But now it felt like isolation, like a warning sign, like bait. She hugged her knees tighter, rocking slightly, as one phrase echoed in her mind. You were never supposed to walk out of this alive. Damian Ward didn't just attack Vanessa Cole. He hunted her. And now, the deeper Detective Mills dug, the clearer that terrifying truth became. It started with the burner phone found in Damian's backpack. Hidden behind a layer of apps and encrypted messages was something far more disturbing. Photos. Dozens of them. Women. Some inside their homes, clearly unaware they were being watched. Some crouched at their front doors, picking up food. Others just standing near their windows, framed by blinds, caught in still moments of privacy. One of them, Vanessa. There she was in 3 separate pictures. One sitting on her couch, scrolling through her phone. Another walking inside with grocery bags. A third, peeking out of the blinds to check for a delivery. None of these were taken the night of the attack. These had been taken weeks before. Mill's stomach turned. This wasn't impulse. It was preparation. And that wasn't all. At Damian's last known residence, the boarded-up auto shop, investigators found a notebook. Inside, a list of names. First names, last names, apartment numbers, delivery notes, and one name circled in red ink. Vanessa Cole. Next to it, a single word. Final. Mills stared at that page for a long time. This wasn't just about power or control. This was about completion. Damian had planned for Vanessa to be his last. As Mills and crews began contacting the women on that list, a sickening pattern began to emerge. Many had used the same delivery app. Many lived alone. Most had complained, not to police, but through the app, about a delivery driver who lingered too long, knocked even when asked not to, or sent strange messages after orders were complete. One woman wrote, "Driver kept looking up at my window. Gave me the creeps." Another, he asked if I was single. Blocked his number immediately. None of these complaints triggered an investigation. Not one. The delivery company's system flagged only major incidents. Missing food, rude behavior, physical confrontation. Creepy stares? Unsettling messages? Not serious enough. Until now. The log showed Damian had signed up for food delivery work 3 months before the attack on Vanessa. He passed the basic background check, no felonies, no violent history. But what the system didn't catch was his behavior. Most drivers took as many deliveries as possible, aiming for quick turnover and higher tips. Not Damian. He was selective. He chose women who ordered late at night, women who lived alone, women who used leave at the door regularly. He studied patterns, returned to the same addresses more than once. He tested boundaries, messaged under fake names, made accidental handoff attempts. And the ones who responded, even with annoyance, they were the ones he marked. He kept detailed notes, what time they picked up their food, whether they looked out the window first, how quickly they retrieved the bag. He was building profiles, quietly, carefully. Mills realized with a chill, Vanessa wasn't his only victim. She might not even be his first. They found 3 women on his list who couldn't be located. No response to phone calls. No current address. No emergency contacts. One of them, a 24-year-old nursing student named Liana Brooks, had been missing for over a year. Her case had gone cold. No leads. No suspects. Now, her name was in Damian's book. Circled. Starred. The same symbols he used to mark Vanessa. The same symbols he used to track. To rank. To decide. Back at Vanessa's apartment, Detective Mills returned with grim news. "We found something," he said, stepping inside. He handed her the burner phone. Photos, names, details, and finally a folded piece of paper. Her name. Final. She stared at it, eyes wide, throat dry. "If I hadn't fought back," she whispered, "you wouldn't be here," Mills said. The silence between them said the rest. Damian Ward didn't want her to survive. She was supposed to be a name on a list. Just another woman no one would miss. But Vanessa? She wasn't finished yet. At the precinct, Damian Ward sat across from Detective Reggie Mills in the interrogation room. A gray, windowless box filled with fluorescent light and tension so thick it felt like smoke. Damian was calm. Too calm. He leaned back in his chair, wrists cuffed to the metal table, expression unreadable. "Can you tell me what this is all about?" he asked casually, like he'd been pulled in for a parking ticket. Mills didn't answer. Not yet. He slid a folder across the table. Slowly, deliberately. Inside, crime scene photos, witness statements, the DNA results. The images were damning. The evidence airtight. But Damien didn't flinch. Detective Jason Cruz stepped in, standing by the door, arms folded. "Let's not waste time," he said flatly. "We know you were at Vanessa Cole's apartment. We have your prints, your DNA, her testimony, the photos, the lists, the phone." Damien smirked. "I was doing my job," he said. "I dropped the food off." She must have gotten confused. Maybe she had a bad dream. The casual tone, the sheer audacity of it, made Mills' jaw tighten. "You stalked her," Mills said. Damien's smile didn't fade. He exhaled slowly, then leaned forward, his voice dropping into something darker, colder. "You want to know why her?" he asked. Mills didn't respond. He just hit record and let him speak. Damien tapped a finger on the table, almost rhythmically. "The app gave me her name. Vanessa. Sounds like a woman who lives alone. I pulled up her info. Facebook was wide open." He chuckled. She had that whole independent vibe. Self-made. No man needed. I knew no one else would be there. Cruz stepped forward, fists clenched. "So you planned it?" Damien's eyes darkened. "I watched her," he said. "Saw her through her window. She never looked out. Thought she was safe." He tilted his head. "She wasn't." He smiled. "I delivered to her once before. She didn't recognize me. So I knew she wouldn't remember me the next time." Mills clenched his jaw, forcing himself to stay quiet. "And the night you attacked her?" Cruz asked. "What were you doing standing outside her door?" Damien's voice lowered. "Waiting," he said. "I needed her to open the door. I needed to see her hesitate. That flicker, that moment where fear fights with politeness, that's when you get them." Mills stared at him, silent. "You enjoyed it," he said finally. Damien's lips curled. "Wouldn't you?" The room went still. He leaned back like he was chatting about a movie. "She fought hard. Kicked. Screamed. She thought she had a chance. That's the best part, when they think they can win." Cruz muttered, "You're a monster." Damien shook his head. "No," he said, almost proudly. "I'm just a man who takes what he wants. People ignore their instincts. She did. She picked leave at the door for a reason, but she still opened it. Know why? Because no one wants to seem rude." He smiled again. "They make it easy." That's when Mills dropped the final blow. "She survived." Damien blinked. For the first time, a flicker of surprise crossed his face. "She's alive?" he asked. "You didn't finish the job," Mills said coldly. Damien looked away, just for a moment. But Mills caught it. That twitch in his jaw, that shift in posture. "She wasn't supposed to live," Mills continued. "She wasn't just a target. She was the end. Final. That's what your notes said." Silence. Then Damien muttered, "Doesn't matter. I had my moment." Cruz stepped forward. "You left photos behind. Names. Addresses. Evidence." And Damien replied, "You think locking me up changes anything?" His voice turned venomous. "There are always more like me. Men who wait. Watch. Men who know what doors will open if you knock long enough." Mills leaned in, eyes burning. "Not this time." He stood. "You'll never see daylight again." Damien just smiled as the door slammed behind them. But Mills didn't care, because Vanessa had survived. And now, the world would know what Damien Ward really was. The news hit the airwaves like a shockwave. Food delivery driver accused of brutal assault. Police suspect more victims. Vanessa Cole sat on her couch, wrapped in the same blanket she'd been clinging to for weeks. The apartment was silent, but her mind wasn't. Every creak, every passing car outside still made her heart race. Then her phone buzzed. A breaking news alert. Another woman had come forward. Vanessa's breath caught in her throat. The screen changed to a news interview. A woman, mid-30s, dark circles under her eyes, hands folded in her lap, so tightly her knuckles turned white. Felicia Hart. Vanessa didn't know her, but in that moment, she knew her. "I never told anyone," Felicia began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was too embarrassed, too ashamed. I convinced myself it was my fault." Vanessa's eyes stung. She knew that exact shame. Felicia took a breath, her lips trembling. "It happened 4 months ago. I just gotten home from work. I lived alone. Ordered food, like always. Chose leave at the door. I didn't want to talk to anyone." Her voice cracked. When I stepped outside, he was still there. Vanessa felt her chest tighten. Felicia's story unfolded like a mirror image. He said he was making sure I got my food. I told him to leave. He asked if I was single. The reporter stayed quiet, letting her speak. I turned to go inside, and that's when he pushed his way in. Felicia paused, then added, barely audible, "I fought." I swear I did. But he was stronger. So much stronger. She wiped her face with shaking fingers. When he was done, he told me no one would believe me, that people would say it was my fault, that I let him in. Vanessa's eyes burned. Her fists clenched. It was like hearing her own story come out of someone else's mouth. Felicia hadn't reported it. She had stayed silent, terrified, convinced no one would understand. But seeing Vanessa's story on the news, that had changed everything. I saw his face, Felicia said, and I knew I wasn't the only one. When the interview ended, Vanessa sat frozen, staring at the dark TV screen. She wasn't alone. She wasn't crazy. And now, she wasn't silent. She reached for her phone and typed a message to Detective Mills. I saw the interview. Felicia Hart. She's telling the truth. Mills replied almost immediately. She came in today. Her statement matches the timeline. Same driver. Same behavior. We believe her. Vanessa stared at the screen. Then she asked the question she didn't want to know the answer to. Do you think there are more? The reply came slowly. We're almost certain of it. Later that night, Vanessa stood at her window, staring out into the street. There were lights, movement, life, but all felt so far away. Still, something had shifted. The fear was still there. But now, so was something else. Conviction. She and Felicia weren't just victims anymore. They were witnesses. They were evidence. And maybe they were the reason someone else wouldn't be next. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back wall. Every seat filled. And up front, at the prosecution table, sat the survivors. Vanessa Cole was one of them. She wore a black blazer, her shoulders squared despite the shaking inside her chest. This was it. The moment she'd imagined every sleepless night since the attack. The day she would face the man who tried to erase her. Damian Ward. He entered in cuffs, wearing the same smug smirk he wore during his interrogation. Like this was all a game. Like he still had some kind of power. But this time, he didn't. The prosecution laid it all out. Slowly, methodically. Photos from his burner phone. The delivery logs. His notebook. The list of women. Vanessa's name, circled. Labeled final. Then came the testimony. First up was Felicia Hart. She sat just feet away from a man who had once destroyed her sense of safety, her voice trembling as she described how he forced his way into her home, how he taunted her, how he made her believe no one would ever believe her story. Felicia paused mid-sentence, voice cracking, but she didn't stop. She looked him in the eye and said, "You thought you broke me, but you didn't." Then came the others. A college student too traumatized to speak in person submitted a recorded video. She had never reported the assault, never even told her parents. But seeing Vanessa's story gave her the courage to come forward. Another woman had gone missing over a year ago. Her name had appeared in Damian's notebook. Her fate remained unknown, but her inclusion in his logs tied her to the pattern. A cold case now burning with new possibility. 7 women, 7 voices. 7 survivors. And that was just the beginning. The jury sat in stunned silence as the evidence mounted. Damian's method wasn't just reckless violence. It was strategy, routine. He had used his job as a delivery driver not to earn money, but to stalk, to select, to study. He logged when his targets answered the door. He wrote notes on how hesitant they were, whether they responded to texts, how quickly they picked up their food. He tracked women like prey. Vanessa was the final witness. She stood slowly, every eye in the courtroom on her, and walked to the stand. And there, just feet from the man who tried to kill her, she told her story. Not just the facts, not just what happened, but how it felt. How it felt to open your door thinking you were grabbing dinner, and end up fighting for your life. How it felt to be told no one would come. No one would believe you. How it felt to black out, convinced you were about to die. How it felt to survive. She looked at him and said, "You didn't break me. You didn't win. I'm still here. And now, everyone knows who you really are." The jury took just 4 hours. When they returned, the air was thick with silence. The foreman stood. On the charge of aggravated assault, guilty. On the charge of sexual battery, guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, guilty. One after another. The counts stacked like the weight of every life he had tried to destroy. Guilty. Damien sat motionless. No reaction. No flinch. No remorse. But Vanessa saw it, just for a second. The twitch in his eye. The flicker of fear. He knew. This was the end. A month later, Vanessa returned to that same courtroom. Not as a witness, but as a witness to justice. She sat in the gallery, hands clasped, listening as the judge read the final sentence. Mr. Ward, your crimes show a clear and disturbing pattern of predation. You stalked, manipulated, and terrorized women for your own gratification. The court finds you to be a danger to society and imposes the maximum sentence. He looked Damien in the eye. You will serve life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Vanessa closed her eyes, not in fear, but in relief. She had survived him. She had outlasted him. And now he was gone. The courtroom faded into memory, but the fear? That didn't vanish overnight. Vanessa Cole returned home to her quiet condo with 3 new locks, a fresh security system, and motion-activated cameras blinking outside every window. But no amount of steel or tech could fully undo the damage Damien Ward left behind. He was behind bars, but he had already taken something she was still fighting to get back. Her peace. For weeks, she barely slept. Every knock made her freeze. Every shadow made her heart race. She stopped ordering food entirely. The apps were deleted. The front door? Deadbolt, chained and barred, always. Her therapist told her, "You're not paranoid. You're responding to trauma." But sometimes it felt like trauma had become her only language. Still, Vanessa refused to let that be the final chapter. So she took a step, a bold one. She bought a gun. The clerk at the store didn't ask why. Maybe he saw the flicker of something in her eyes. The kind of look he'd seen in other women before. Women who weren't shopping, but arming themselves. She practiced, week after week, learned how to load, how to aim, how to breathe through the fear. The recoil jolted her at first, but every shot she fired, it pushed the helplessness a little further away. Then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A message. Andre Bryant, an old friend from college. Someone she hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade. The text was simple. Vanessa, wow, it's been forever. I saw you pop up on my feed. Just wanted to say hi. How have you been? Her chest tightened. She stared at the screen for a long time. How had she been? Changed. Haunted. Stronger. Weaker. All of it, somehow at once. But slowly she typed back. A lot has happened, but I'm finally breathing again. He replied quickly. I like the sound of that. We should catch up sometime. Maybe over dinner. Dinner. The word used to carry trauma. But now, maybe it could carry something else. Hope. She stared at the message, heart racing for a different reason this time. A quiet smile tugged at her lips. Not forced. Not fake. Real. I like that, she wrote back. She hit send. And for the first time in a long, long time, she looked forward to something. Not just surviving, but living. Because Vanessa Cole wasn't just a victim. She was a survivor. A fighter. A woman who stared down death and walked away stronger. And now, she was ready to reclaim her life.